fantasy friends, I'm Carrie Oehm from HotRoster today, and here we go, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's the final countdown to championship weekend, and most of you will have wrapped up your semifinal matchups in Week 15, meaning there's a strong chance that my winners and losers from Week 15 are guys that either won or lost you a chance for the ship. So let's recap both the wonderful and the painful moments of Week 15. Where has this been all season? Michael McCarthy, finally Ty Montgomery, was given a chance to prove himself, and oh, he proved himself all right. The newly minted Green Bay RB rushed 16 times for 162 yards and 2 scores against the Bears. That was good enough for a career-high 28 fantasy points, twice as much as his previous high. His performance also marked only the 3rd time in Packers history that someone ran for 150 yards and scored twice in the same game. It was also the first time a Green Bay back topped 160 yards rushing since Ryan Grant in 2007. And the way Montgomery did it was very impressive. He broke off runs of 61, 36, and 26 yards and averaged 9 yards per carry after contact per rush attempt. I mean, the guy's play was so good that he kept Aaron Rodgers and the Packers passing game off the score sheet completely. I think it's safe to say Montgomery won himself the starting job on Sunday, and I have a feeling that Mike McCarthy will no longer hesitate to use his hybrid weapon in the future. That's why Montgomery has to be the biggest winner this week. Well, another guy who came alive on Sunday was Brandon Cooks of the Saints. The Cookie Monster absolutely destroyed the Cardinals. He totaled a career-high 30 fantasy points thanks to his 7 catches for 186 yards and 2 scores. The Cardinals simply didn't have an answer for his speed as Cooks recorded scores from 45 and 65 yards out. Just incredible. Next week, he'll be back on the turf at the Superdome, and I think that Cook's explosive playmaking ability will be on full display once again. Either way, Cook's 30-burger was enough to lead all wideouts in fantasy, and that's why he's made my biggest winners list this week. All right, so speaking of record-breaking performances, I know we hardly ever touch on kickers in fantasy, but Chris Boswell put on a show on Sunday. The Steelers kicker made 6 of 6 field goals against the Bengals. 6. And that was good enough for 18 fantasy points, which ranks as the 2nd most by a kicker all season. And just to put his performance in perspective, his 18 points were more than Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Howard, Jarvis Landry, and even Le'Veon Bell. Plus, Boswell's 6 field goals also matched the Steelers' single-game record. The guy could have had very likely won you or lost you your matchups this week, so if you were one of those few who started Boswell, congratulations, because I bet both of you and him are huge winners for Week 15. All right, so speaking of guys that Boswell outperformed, what about Adrian Peterson of the Vikings? Peterson made his return to the lineup after missing 11 games with a torn meniscus. And how did he reward his owners? Oh, just 23 yards on 7 touches to go along with a lost fumble and 0.3 fantasy points. Peterson's Week 15 fantasy is actually 60 times less than Chris Boswell's 18. Peterson actually scored less than all 30 kickers who played between Thursday and Sunday. That list even includes 49ers Phil Dawson, who made a single extra point. What a time to be alive, right? Never thought I'd see the day, but it's impossible to trust him during championship week, and that's why Peterson's my biggest loser for Week 15. Well, another player adding to my losers list and who put a major dud up on Sunday was Tyler Eifert of the Bengals. With no A.J. Green in the lineup and coming off 3 straight games with a touchdown, you figured Eifert would continue to find success in a big way against the Steelers. Instead, the Notre Dame product caught only 1 of 3 targets for 9 yards, good for 0.9 fantasy points. The last time Eifert had 0 fantasy points was Week 7 of this year when he came back from injury and was limited to 15 snaps. This past Sunday against Pittsburgh, though, that definitely was not the case. With plenty of opportunity, Eifert put up a huge dud, and that's why he's easily one of my losers this week. Finally, to cap off my list of losers this week, I have to highlight the terrific Tom Brady. Sure, Tom is now the winningest quarterback in history. His Pats also beat a tough Broncos team on Sunday, but the future Hall of Famer only threw for 188 yards passing with no scores. That mounted to 7 fantasy points, which would have been far from what fantasy owners needed in their Final Four matchup. So those 7 fantasy points actually represent the worst single-game performance Brady has had in fantasy since Week 4 of 2014. Now, I'd expect Brady to bounce back big when he faces the Jets on Sunday, but that won't matter to owners who he let down hugely this past Sunday. He definitely cost many a championship in fantasy. And Tom, I'm sorry, but your good looks just can't bypass my losers list this week. Well, that's it for today, football friends. Make sure you check in with us tomorrow when we talk about the quarterbacks for Week 16, aka Championship Week. And for those of you who don't know what HotRoster is, go check it out. Go to HotRoster.com, download the app, and give it a try. It's like no other fantasy game you've ever played. Then for some help winning the game, check out HotRoster today with the Raging Redhead Cam Stewart and Gary and Thorne. Every weekday at 4:30 Eastern, only on the Fantasy Sports Network. For HotRoster Now, I'm Carrie Oehm.